Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike 2024 release webinar. I hope you'll find this next hour interesting. So broadly speaking, this webinar will be broken down into a number of sections. The timings are more for my benefit than yours. So we'll have a quick introduction. We'll look back at the last two releases, a few highlights of those. The big center section is what's new in 2024. We'll try and find time to have a look at our new cloud product, the Mike MedOcean simulator. So, intro. Well, DHI has been around for a long time. Next year is our 60th birthday, and for most of that time, we have been developing software from at least the early 70s, which is more than 50 years in my estimation. And what does 50 years of development gives us? Well, it gives us the ability to model water in a wide variety of different domains, from pipes and rivers, here with Mike Plus, to groundwater with fee flow. But today, we're going to be looking at Mike 21, Mike 3, and Mike Ecolab. Just a little thing before we start, I thought it would be nice to share some of our development principles with you. Our core development principles of accuracy, performance, and stability are what we strive to. It's important to note, and you'll see in the presentation, that our scientific work is never done. We aim primarily to provide you with quality software. We want you to be more efficient, and we want to keep our engines at the forefront. And we made a change in 2023 in that we have reduced our release schedule. We went out to the community and asked the question, and the overwhelming response was that actually one release per year of the marine software was good. It was what you needed, and it's allowed us to put in additional processes to improve the quality, particularly around testing of big scientific improvements, which we'll get onto later. So looking back at 2022 and 2023, and I hope you've all rushed to install 2024, but there were some really cool things which were introduced in the previous releases, and I just want to touch upon those now. Starting with the modeling of coastal vegetation. Well, why is coastal vegetation important? Well, it's a really nice green way, particularly if you combine it with hard engineering, to reduce damage from waves, from intense storms, tsunamis, reduce erosion. Big sort of mangrove forests, can help to reduce erosion around the coast. It can potentially mitigate the sea level rise, and it can also reduce the hard engineering costs. It can reduce the height of sea defenses, etc. This was implemented in all of our flow and wave models, and it's standard functionality, no new modules required. You just needed to pay your SMA and you got the vegetation modules. So that's great. An example of this, this is from the Old Harbor Bay in Jamaica. Here we were looking at two baseline conditions, one for hydrodynamics, water levels, and one for spectral waves. And if I give you the results of this, you can see that with coral reefs and seagrass and mangroves, etc., so with the coastal vegetation, that's the baseline, we had lower significant wave heights near shore. This is exactly what we expect to see. The same with water levels. You can see an increase in water level of 0.1 meters, where the mangroves, etc., have been removed. And particularly for sediment transport, we can see a dramatic increase in erosion risk. And this is why we introduced the vegetation module. In 2023, we introduced sediment transport calculations using a 3D flow field. And this was introduced again as standard in the Mike 3 flow model sediment sand transport module, excuse me. Again, if you had the sand transport module, you got this with your SMA. We also introduced it as a new module in Mike 3 Wave. And why do we do this? Well, it was to improve the modeling of trench siltation, scour around monopiles and berms, and the evolution of breaker bars under dynamic wave action. So, excuse me. Here's just a really quick example of what you can get out of the new Mike 3 wave model. You can see the breaker bar generating there. You can see the trench behind. And skip that far too fast. And you can compare that to the original beach profile. On the spectral wave side, in 2023, we introduced wave energy dissipation by fluid mud. And this was to give us a better understanding of nearshore wave conditions, particularly in coastal areas where mud can shoot out of an estuary and can have a significant effect on wave conditions. And finally, for the looking back section, we had a very powerful three-way coupling introduced into Mike Ecolab, allowing us to couple hydrodynamics, mud transport, and ecological processes to model a full coastal cycle, if you like. So the growth and death of eelgrass in a coastal area, and the effect that has on erosion risk, for example. So that was an addition to Ecolab, which in itself is already very powerful. You know, Ecolab is an open equation solver, so if you can represent it as an equation, you can model it in Ecolab. Moving on to the main event, and this is what is in Mike 2024. And again, as I say, we're focusing on the marine products here. Mike 21, Mike 3, Ecolab, ABM Lab, and the Mike 0 interface and framework. So it's important to note that it's available now. And I'm sure that a lot of you have already sort of rushed to the download site and downloaded it and are sort of bathing in its majesty, I hope. But here's the link. This will be in the presentations that are sent out to you. So if you haven't downloaded it and installed it, you can install them side by side with previous versions now. So if you have 2023 on your computer, you can install 2024 alongside it to at least try out some of the new features. So let's get to it. So these are split into sort of thematic sections, and we'll start with the numerical foundation. And I'm not going to dwell on this, but I'm going to give you an example in the next slide. You can see here what we've done. Okay, and again, I'm not going to dwell on this. If you have any information about this, please get in touch. So we've changed the Lehman solver in FM. We have changed the reconstruction of the face values to give a more accurate result in the first order scheme. We've improved the handling of the gravity term, and we've also improved our advection dispersion scheme as well. We have one addition to the FM interface, and that is, if you're familiar with the Navier-Stokes engine, you will know that there is a Riemann factor there to suppress the Riemann solver, the effect of the Riemann solver, and add noise to assimilation. Well, that's the outcome. Sometimes that's good for calibration in certain circumstances, so that's why it's there. I don't expect many of you to use it in your day-to-day work. So why have we done all of this work? Well, by default, as I'm sure you know, in FM, by default, we suggest that you use the higher order or second order scheme for hydrodynamics and transport. And here, we believe, and in fact, it's demonstrable that with a higher order scheme, you get the highest accuracy. But there is a first order scheme in FM. We call it a low order fast algorithm scheme, and you may choose to use that. And one of the reasons you may choose to use that is that it's 3 to 4 times faster than the higher order scheme. Now, the reason that one is not default and will probably, well, it will never be the default. We do strongly recommend the higher order scheme generally for general applications, is that the low order scheme was not really useful for general applications. So, and a lot of this information is in the manual, but it was good, for example, for rain on mesh. But if you included a river in there that was that the flow was highly convective and channel constrained, then it was less good. So what have we done here? Well, across the board, the high order and low order schemes are more stable and more robust, particularly where we have flooding and drying. Okay, and if you compare 2023 results using the higher order scheme to 2024 results using the higher order scheme, there's little change. However, if you use the first order scheme, or if you choose to use the first order scheme, low order fast algorithm, then we have made some significant improvements with a view on working with sediment transport studies and flushing studies. The old first order scheme was not great for the prediction of velocities. So we have improved the first order scheme such that the results to the second order scheme are now comparable. They're not as accurate, but it's important to note that in certain applications, for example, in rivers and in submerged channels, where the old first order scheme struggled, the new first order scheme gives a much better and more accurate result, and is very close to the second order scheme. Not the same. The second order scheme is still the most accurate. This took an awful lot of work, but I hope that those of you who do use the first order scheme, particularly for environmental work, find it useful. Sediments and morphology. Mud transport. We've made a significant effort to refactor, clean up, modernize, however you want to say it, the mud transport module. There are a number of key improvements and corrections, which means that you may find that the results from your mud transport simulations are are slightly different from between 2023 and 2024. But to offset that, what we've done is we've also added a ton of new features to the mud transport module in the flexible mesh engines. Those are listed here. I won't read all of them because you can do that. But I have one example coming up. We've made improvements to literal processes FM. Now, I was recently at a symposium where somebody said, "Long live Litpack," and that spurred us into a little bit of action. So we've tidied up the user interface for Litpack in respect of file selection, validation, and viewing. So in Litpack now, the look and feel of Litpack is now the same as Mic 21 and Mic 3 FM. You have view buttons, you have selector buttons, and you can quickly bring up a profile pod, etc. So that's really nice and long overdue, that one. And we hope to sort of do a little bit more work on Litpack next year. And finally, for sediments and morphology, we've made a little bit of an extension here to better consider slope effects. So that's a small addition to sand transport. One of the highlights from the mud transport work, the new features available from the interface now, is that there are many new dredger spill positions. And these are really, really, really cool and really make it a lot easier to build a model where you have a diverse range of dredging and discharge operations. Okay, and here we just have a few of them. Moving on to ecology and environmental. Well, I have a demo queued up. Hopefully it's all going to work because some of it is live and some of it is a bit, here's one I prepared earlier. And I will show you the Ecolab template creation workflow, which allows you to either save model components from a big template. We call them snippets. So you can build up a library of these little small processes in Ecolab that you can import into future templates, or you can simply drag and drop or copy and paste auxiliary variables between templates, and they will drag along with them all of the processes that and calculations and variables, etc., that particular function needs. So that's really giving the Ecolab workflows a real sort of boost, I think. So I will demonstrate that shortly. I talked for 2023 about the three-way coupling between hydrodynamics and mud. We've uplifted the three-way coupling with hydrodynamics and heat. So please have a look at that, particularly if you haven't looked at the mud one yet. This one has real potential. I think we're looking at possibly using it for ice melt and things like that. But as it's Ecolab, virtually anything is possible. We have improvements to Ecolab on Linux. I'm sure most of you know that the FM engines, including Ecolab, are all available on Linux, not just Windows, particularly for HPC applications. And we've updated some template management in the FM editors to better handle updates to Ecolab templates. And I'll show you how that works there. But you can see in the image there, we've now added dynamic view update functionality for Ecolab templates. Workflows are one of our main jobs is to make my customers more efficient, and one of my jobs is to make using Mike Zero fun, because it is, it is getting to be an old beast now. It must be 20 years old. So you'll notice that there have been, hopefully you'll notice that there have been some improvements over the years, particularly the last 2 or 3 years. And this is continuing. So we now finally have, and I say finally because it's been long requested, long requested. We now have online street and satellite, etc. Background maps in key Mike Zero editors and viewers, which is great. I'm really pleased. So there we go. I won't talk too much about the Cloud Explorer. I mentioned this to some of you in the summer, and we will be talking more about this next year. But basically, what the Cloud Explorer is, it's a file management and simulation kickoff tool for cloud simulations. So it allows you to manipulate files and file structures in the cloud, in the My Cloud platform from your desktop. So we'll talk about that later. So it's still in public beta right now until March 2024. For mooring analysis, not sure why mooring analysis has found its way into workflows, but I must have had a reason. Performance of the frequency response calculator has improved, hopefully by as much as 25%. So hopefully that'll please the mooring analysis modelers amongst you. And finally, we've moved some more calculations to the GPU. And in particular, we've moved the infrastructure feature and depth-dependent roughness features in Mike 21FM to the GPU now. So those were a little bit laggy because we use a hybrid CPU GPU approach for the process modules, and now general hydrodynamic simulations, particularly inland, are a bit quicker. Carrying on the workflows track, we have a new mesh manager tool, which I will try and demo for you. We've done a little bit of work on the gates. We've improved isoline functionality. You can export isolines from Mike Zero the same way you can export vectors. And many small corrections, small improvements, as usual. My particular favorite being the top one there, Control-Shift-C, Control-Shift-V between two tabs to copy the spatial extents. I'll see if I've got time to show you that. It's really quick, but you never know. Oh, and here we go. So I will attempt a demo, and I hope you can see Mike Zero. So I will start with the background maps, I think. So firstly, some of you might have noticed that we lost the view button, which was to the right here a few releases ago. That's because we changed this file selection component, and the view functionality is now in the drop down. So I can view the mesh. If I click view like this, I can then put that in a new tab group. And here I don't see any background maps. This is because by default, the background mapping is only enabled for the results viewer. So if I right click and select properties and go to background maps and draw background, click apply, you can see that I now have a background map. Okay. If I shut this down and call the results viewer and go into projects, add files to projects, and we will select an FM file, and I will see if I can find I will see if I can find that same Urson model. Have I got any output? I do. Okay, you can see that the background maps are enabled by default in the results viewer. Okay, I'll just skip to the end so you can see that it's a completed model. Okay, that's good. Also, we have draw isolines. I can apply that, and now I can export those isolines to shapefile. That's the other new feature. Okay, that's the first thing I wanted to show you in Mic Zero. The next thing is we have in the Mic Zero toolbox tools, we have reconfigured this. So we now have a mesh group, and here's the old mesh converter, and here we have a mesh manager. I will start this, and I will choose that same Urson mesh, and I won't filter it. Filtering is smoothing the bumps or smoothing the peaks. I will do a global refinement on this, but a local refinement is also possible if you have a DFSU selection file. And I've got something that says find mesh here. Do you want to replace it? I'll just click yes on that, and I will execute. Status OK, and then I can finish that. And then let's just see what we can see here. Oh, excuse me 1 second. That was my phone doing something very, very, very strange. And I reset my brain, and I'm looking for the results. I'm looking for the meshes that I just created. That's it, Steve. Good on you. Okay, here we go. So in here we have in there and in there and in Urson and in data. Dimitri, I now have 2 meshes. Okay. So let's have a look at them. Let's have a look at the original mesh. We've already seen the original mesh today. There it is. And let's now look at the fine mesh that we've created using the mesh manager tool. There he is. We'll put him side by side. And you can see, well, we basically densified it by a factor of 2. Okay. So that's the mesh manager. When it comes to Ecolab and the Ecolab template creation workflows, this is an Ecolab template, and this is water quality nutrients template. And I just want to pick out the dissolved oxygen state variable here, and I can now export this to a snippet file, or I can export it to clipboard to review it. And this allows me to build up a library of ecological and environmental modeling components. Okay, I'll cancel that down. because what I really want to show you is the drag and drop. So I will create a new Mike Ecolab template. And again, I will put this in a new vertical tab. And here, whoops, I don't know why it went like that. Here, what I will do is this is completely empty, this one, brand new. And here what I'll do is I'll drag and drop this dissolved oxygen state variable to this Ecolab template. I get a window up telling me that, okay, you want dissolved oxygen, but I actually need to transfer all of these other constants and all of these other forcings and processes along with it to make the template work. So I click OK on that, and you can see instantly that I have my dissolved oxygen there, and I don't have the full template, but I do have what I need to consider the dissolved oxygen. So that's the drag and drop functionality, and Ecolab. Consider it as a sort of template merge functionality, and you'll be on the sort of right track. I'll just close that one down. And the last thing I want to show you in Mike 0 is this update feature. So we have a model definition for Ecolab, and when we do an environmental and ecological model in FM, the first thing we need to give FM is, well, it needs to have the Ecolab template, and here it is. That's the Ecolab template there. We can view that template here. There it is. So there was a view button. That's viewing the template. I can then look at, for example, what the forcings are. It's the passive drifter template. So you can see that it's got some constants in there. It's got this one here. And I can make a change. So I can say the maximum value is now 20. Okay, so I've made that change. I save that template. And then I go back to FM. And you can see that I now have magically an update button. Now, this used to be a bit of a pain because when you did this process, you had to shut down the FM input editor and bring it back up again to get the template to register. So we've made that template registration process really quick. And now all I need to do is click update, and it says, whoa, hang on, things are different. And it's done. So I'm now using the updated template. Okay. That's all I wanted to show you really for Mike 0. I hope that was fun. I really like the work we've done in Ecolab. Ecolab has had a lot of love this year. We doubled the development spend on Ecolab. A lot of that you're not going to see until next year, and you're not going to see it until later next year because we are working on a parallelized version of Ecolab. Those of you who use Ecolab a lot, particularly for 2D and particularly for 3D work, will know that it is not parallelized, and we will be delivering at some point next year. Well, I can say in November next year, I hope, a parallelized version of Ecolab. Okay. That is Mike 0 and Ecolab demo. So, in summary, what have you got for your SMA this year? Well, you've got a bunch of new hydrodynamics. You've got some improved advection dispersion calculations. Sand transport has been improved, so has LitPack. Ecolab has been given a lot of love. Mud transport has been given an awful lot of love. And hopefully, the changes to the workflows mean you'll be even more efficient when using Mike products. Now, there is some sad news, and here is a list of things which are decommitted with Mike 2024. We're not too sad because you can still use 2024 alongside 2023. But Mic Hydro River, Mic 11, and Mic Flood are no longer in the Mic Zero installers from 2024 and going forward. These have all been replaced by Mic Plus. And anyone with a Mic Flood license and valid SMA already has Mic Plus. So you get the shiny new thing, as much as we are sad to see the old workhorses put out to seed. Moving on, I think we've got time. It says on my clock 23 minutes left. I was involved in the sort of instigation of this particular product, but I have been away from it for a good 12 months. So when I come to do the demo, if I start umming and ahhing, bear with me. So Mic Met Ocean Simulator. What is it? Well, I can describe it using its old name. I'll get into trouble for this, but it used to be called within DHI the Fast Wave Emulator. So it's an emulator. Let's see what it is. Well, what's it about? This is what the new marketing bump says it's about. But basically, it's about getting information really fast. So it is an online tool. It has all the benefits of an online tool. It is backed by our cloud infrastructure. It is also backed by Spectral Wave itself. It has data included. Okay, so it's fast. We have cloud storage, and it's also coupled to DHI's MedOcean On Demand, which I'm sure some of you will be avid users of. That's our big sort of MedOcean portal for collating all of our MedOcean data sets and making them public. Why would you use it? Why would you use the MedOcean simulator? Well, it's not a replacement for a full detailed spectral wave model. But it can be really good, really good for looking at quick, simple scenarios, maybe looking at climate change scenarios as well, and also primarily for feasibility studies and site selection studies for wind farms, for example. This tool was actually kicked off upon request from several large wind farm developers, so they could quickly get an idea of nearshore wave conditions to site their windmills. So I'm sure you would like to see it. So I'm going to put my life in my hands, and I'm not quite going to say here's one I prepared earlier, but I'm going to give you a flavor of what the Mic MedOcean simulator looks like. Here we go. Let me see where we are. So in the best, well, for my UK friends, in the best Blue Peter fashion, here's one I tried to make earlier. This is my cloud, specifically Cloud Admin. If you're a user of my cloud, you will recognize Mesh Builder, you will recognize Data Link, which have both sort of improved or been launched at some point this year. This is basically the window into my cloud. This allows me to create folders and storage spaces for my data. So here I have a folder called Portland. in my cloud, and I'm going to kick off the MedOcean simulator here. And as if by magic, I actually have one which is already open. So what do we see first of all? Okay, I have a graphical window here, which sort of tells me where I am in the world. And where I am in the world, that was far too quick, Steve. You should never do such silly things. Is Portland in the US. I have a rudimentary domain, but where did I get this domain from? So I can either use my own mesh. I can create a mesh using Mesh Builder, or I can create my own mesh using Mesh Generator in Mike 0, and I can upload this, or I can use the assisted meshing option, which is a partially automated, not fully, don't oversell it, Steve, partially automated meshing of an area of interest. So if I don't have any data, this is really where I would begin. So let's use this, and we'll click on next step. And here you can see, and I won't redo this because I'm on a very slow connection today, and that's why I don't have my video on. And because it's cloud has a lot of benefits, but it is also dependent on your internet speed. And usually this is really quite quick, taking a minute or so to communicate, at most a minute or so at most to communicate with the cloud platform. So here I have digitized a big square, or rectangle rather, you can see that here. I've digitized a coastline, and I've digitized an area of interest. Okay, you can see that here. The domain is here. I've digitized that. I can replace that by drawing. I can replace by upload, replace from platform, which is the cloud storage. The shoreline, again, I digitized. I can redigitize that or upload something more effective. And there's obviously my area of interest just there. Okay, good. I click create mesh. I get this mesh. And this is just fully automated. So I then get the option to tune the mesh, and I can click these little sliders here, and I can say for the area of interest, I want more resolution, and maybe I want a little bit more resolution here in the main domain. Okay, and this is actually the density of points. This is a number of points in the domain, this particular one. Okay, you can see here that as I was digitizing, the MedOcean simulator was recognizing the area and supplying me with some Gebco bathymetry. This is 2023 Gebco bathymetry, I think. I haven't checked in Mesh Builder recently. And then I can interpolate. Okay, so when I click interpolate, oh, no, why does it do this to me? Are you really not going to play games with me today? Where are you? Oh, it's there. Okay, 1 second. Okay, again, live demo-ish. These things are sent to try us. So it just needed a refresh. And I will turn off the Gebco bathymetry again. So now I can click on next step. I have an interpolated mesh. There it is. And next step is to give it a number of points of interest. Now, these points of interest are where I want the tool to calculate my wave climate for me. It'll give me ultimately a DFS0 file or a CSV file for the period I want. So I've chosen 3 points in my area of domain, in my area of interest, and I can click next step. And here is where I set the time. So here I can go, I want it to be from maybe 2020, say 1st of January 2020 to, let's say the 31st of December 2020. Okay, so here I'm actually giving it my boundary conditions, and these are the boundaries. Okay, and I want ERI5 wind. I want the DHI global wave model from last year, the refresh, and DTU10 tide is okay. I can extract that data, and then I can go on to the next step. And here I quality control it. So here I've got a number of parameters that I can choose. This allows me to sort of look at the time series along the boundaries. So I can change to boundary 4, and it will give me and you can see by the slightly strange violet dot, it's this violet line here. I can change the axis configuration because this is no good to me, and I'll just put that to peak wave period, so I get a sort of scatter light pop. And then I can go on to the, if I'm happy with this, the way this data looks at the boundaries, I can go on to the next step. And this is the next step. I have a number of options I can use for the calculations, and I get to choose a point for some testing, and I can run a test. So I can choose, say, that time series point there along boundary 4. I can run a quick test to see what that looks like, and I'm running it live now. As I said, slow internet, it might take some time. But when I click run model, what it will do is it will, in the background, it will run hundreds, if not thousands, of spectral wave calculations as fast as possible, just on sort of various sort of dissimilar time series points. And then it will emulate them all together into one long annual time series. So here's one I made earlier. If I go into the download, because that's still running, you can see in my downloads, I had this file here. And this is an output from this particular fast wave emulator example. I can open this file. And you can see, well, you can see it contains quite a lot of wave data. So I'm just going to, this is just mic 0 again. So whoops, that's the wrong one. I'm going to go into select items, deselect all, and just select the significant wave heights for 0.1, 2, and 3 that I entered. Okay. And here is the 2020 wave climate for those points close to the coast. Okay, and that was sort of super quick. So, and it is super quick. It's just right now, slow broadband. It's a bit frustrating. So, but you can see it's gradually ticking up there. So that is not fast wave. That is the Mike Motion simulator, which is actually also out now. It's not officially part of the 2024 release, but by a happy coincidence, it is available now. I even think there is an evaluation license possible for this one. So if you are interested in this, then please get in touch and we can give you some more information. There will be a ton of information dropping onto the website if it hasn't already dropped, along with a full slide deck which explains everything about it. Okay, I will shut down that mic 0. Here, finally, you can see This is just the wave parameters that I have on that boundary 4. Okay, so if you're happy with these, then you can click Run Model, and then you get a little bit of information saying what it's actually doing. Okay, and what it's doing is running a ton of spectral wave calculations in the background and stitching them all together by black magic. But I won't do that. Thank you very much for attending. I hope to see some of you next year, and you have my email address. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.